bronche, that's how we say brunch.
Here's to the ladies who say basic with their lunch.
You want that bochinche?
Paquete con pinche, you hear what they said?
Not too busy, glasses clinking.
Aquí en esta mesa se respeta como ñón.
Si la copa está llena, yo te doy la bendición.
So what if we get ratchet?
We from the Bronx.
That's it.
Don't get it twisted.
We be going to Manhattan. Be a queen.
Be a boss.
Ladies who brunch and pop it off.
Hey, we pop and pop it off. We pop.
All right. The episode's about to start.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode number 1 of season 5, Ladies Who Bronche. I am Julissa.
What's good, everybody? This is Skittles.
And this week, we got a Dominicana who's out here slaying in Arizona. Not only is she a wonderful photographer, she is a bad bitch in the business world. She has so many gems to drop, from things around fashion, different brands, love, and just being an incredible force of nature for girls like me who did not grow up having girls on the scene killing shit. Denisse, who the fuck are you?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor. Really quick, we met at Hispanicize last year.
Yes, you did.
And I obviously listened to the podcast, like when one of you introduced yourself. And I was just like, this is so fucking cool. So it's an honor to be here and to be part of a conversation with y'all. I'm a fan. Yeah, mutual fandom. Who the fuck is Denisse? So you can find me on Instagram at Chasing Denisse with 2 S's because my mom is very extra. And I am, like you said, a photographer. I'm an entrepreneur. I focus a lot, especially now during the pandemic where we've all had to pivot a little bit. I focus a lot on helping people of color pivot their business. So I do a lot of small business consultations and personal branding consultations. I have crowned myself the media kit queen. I make media kits for influencers and small businesses, and I do websites. And now, thankfully, since it's calming down a little bit, I'm shooting again. So yeah, I mean, I wear a ton of hats. I got a big ass head. I wear a ton of hats.
Yes. And so when we met at Hispanicize, one of the exciting connections we realized we had was to Ada Rojas. And
oh my God.
So you've done, can you share with us some of the shoots you've done for Ada?
Yeah, I mean, how long do we have? How long is this?
That's right. It's been a minute. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know how long to be honest, I don't know how long I've known her for, because she is one of those people, like I have very few close friends, but she is one of those people that it feels like I've known her like in my past life and this life, like all my life. So I can't say how long I've known her, but we have been working together for a couple years. I did the big photo shoot for her brand launch, Botanica. She came out here. She's my sister. Like I would say like best friend, but she is my sister. She officiated our wedding.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she will be here hopefully in like a couple weeks. And yeah, my girl. Yeah, we've done a bunch of stuff together, a bunch of campaigns. She did a tour with Kia a couple years ago, and I went on tour with her as a photographer, her and another influencer, Rocio. And yeah, we've just been like attached to the hip ever since.
Yes, that launch photo shoot that was the one I was like that.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so good. And I think it was at Hispanicize that you mentioned that you had done it. And I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. I really need to know Denisse.
Yeah.
So definitely a big fan of that work. And so what got you out to Arizona in the first place?
My boo. I was about to try to sing like Alicia Keys, but I was like, that's not gonna work. Yes, there you go. Thank you. I was like, wait, that is. I'm so glad I caught that. That would have been like real bad. Yeah. So I met my husband in New York. He was working on a pipeline project. I'm on the Hudson, and funny story that I don't think I've ever like publicly and to an audience shared other than like on stories or something. But he was working for a pipeline project, and I got approached by a dating site company that I'm not allowed to name. But basically they were just like, we're about to take the Tinder swipe situation and we need like beta testers, and we just need you to create a profile, go on there, swipe for a couple hours. We'll pay you like $1,000 or however much it was. And you just have to message one person. So my husband was the person I messaged. And
wow.
yeah. And we met up, and I was real corny, like, cause I was like, I'm getting paid for this. Like, I'm about to log off and never log on again. And I was just like, how's the weather? Do you like pizza? And yeah, and 4 years later, he makes really good pizza.
Wow, what a love story.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I will forever be alone. I only wish.
Listen, that
that
was me for a long time. I
where
had
are the
already
dating
planned
sites at?
out.
I want to be a beta tester.
Right, I was thinking
Right?
that. I was like, let me find my husband in beta.
Yeah.
Beta husband, yeah. So he with his job, he traveled like 340 days out of the year. So his home base was Arizona here in this house, but he was never home. So we long distance for a little bit, and then it was like a year and change. And I was like, all right, my man's like, I'm getting a little older. I mean, I was like 26, and I was like, I'm getting old. Like, you know, whatever.
Because on Dominican time, that is old. On Dominican time.
On Dominican time, I got dust on my ovaries and cement drying over my uterus. Like, we gotta go, honey.
Oh
So
my
I was
God.
just like, this is really hard. You know, it was just really hard being in a long distance relationship for me. Like, because I was off. He's the first person I've ever been like in love with. Just the first person that I was ever like just so like even just obsessed with. Like, I wanted to talk to him all the time, to see him all the time. Obviously, not being able to has a lot to do with that. But yeah, then we just decided that he would quit his job. He came out here, helped me establish my business for a year. He worked with me, and he shot all my content, and he like learned photography and did his own thing too. And yeah, and so I mean, I will say like our mortgage is very cheap. Like a lot of that stuff factored into there. Like we got baby girls. We have a $700 mortgage for a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house.
What?
Wow.
We got a backyard. Like it was really hard to obviously leave you know, Jersey, New York, my people, my community. It's still like a struggle. Not having community and diversity is something that I struggle with. But you obviously can build a different life for yourself. Or personally, you know, financially, I've been able to build a different life by being able to save and just having a different opportunity. Obviously, I am very lucky that my husband already had this house. He had already owned it for a bunch of years, and I just kind of moved in and took over. But yeah, that's how I ended up here in the sticks.
Wow. I love that. This is such a like, where is there like a photography book with written story that you're gonna do for this? Because this is like,
yes.
He always tells me to do that. So like, funny thing is when we were dating, he was not allowed because it's a pipeline, like a live pipeline project. Which like, if anyone is against pipelines and all that stuff, like that's not my job. Do not come for me. Keep your comments to yourself. Like, he doesn't do that anymore. And they're not all bad, but I used to ask him a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive and like, not in like a nosy way, but it's like, oh, okay, well, if you can be like, he was literally in a pickup truck for 12 hours, just staring at like a project, supervising a project. So he had a lot of time. I was a nanny and a photographer. So I also had a lot of time, and I would just ask him questions. So one day we counted, and it was like over 700 and something questions over a span of like a year and change. And he was like, you should do a coffee table book with like pictures, like a story, like questions that you should have. Cause they were like, it wasn't just like, oh, what's your favorite like dish, you know, things like that. It wasn't also like, okay, what's your childhood trauma like? Like things like that. Because you know how we are.
Yeah.
And that actually like really helped the way that we communicate. Like we've been together 4 years, we've never had an argument, knock on wood.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's a lot to do with like the having to communicate, you know, because you can't see each other, you can't storm off, you can't be like, mira coño, like whatever. But yeah, so that's, maybe I will do like a little story thing.
Yeah, listen, that story is very fucking interesting. Like I would love to, I think you would be able to bring it to life visually for sure.
Thank you.
All right, so Denisse, the first question we're gonna ask you is, when you're out to brunch with the ladies, what is your choice brunch bebida?
Oh, I feel like the like dainty lady in me wants to go with something light, but I'm just like a Bloody Mary. A Bloody Mary.
Really? Yes.
Yeah.
I've never gotten into Bloody Marys. What is it that like appeals to you? Like,
So I don't like it with like, usually I say like very low on the hot sauce, or just give me the hot sauce and I'll do it myself. Cause sometimes it just feels like you're eating like sazon, which is so weird, like depending on how they make it. So it's just like, it's like a little bit savory depending on where you go. Like they might put like some shrimp on there or olives or whatever. Like you might get like a small meal on the straw of your Bloody Mary. And it's just like, it's a really good drink. I don't really like, I stopped drinking in last November. Just because it was like fucking with my mental health. I don't drink a lot, but like when I do, it's just like 0 to 100. Like no matter what, I'm just a lightweight. Like I'm a piece of shit when it comes to drinking. I want to be down and hang with my friends. I can't. So I was just like, oh, okay. Well, like I was exercising a bunch, and I'm like, let me just try this like sober fall thing, and then I just haven't drank since. But I'm more of a whiskey person. Like if I'm having a whiskey at 10 a.m., that's totally fine. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
So with your Bloody Mary, what's going to be your choice brunch plate?
I haven't gone to brunch in so long. I feel like
listen, me neither.
Same.
I'm trying to think like we just
the last time I went to brunch was in February, so I'm going through it. But
yeah,
if you could choose, if we were ordering you brunch right now, what would you order?
You know what? I love seafood, so I'm gonna say like shrimp and grits.
Ooh,
yeah. Yes. But there's a spot in Harlem that Ala knows that I went to. I forgot what it's called. You have to ask her.
Put us on.
It is amazing. I will ask her and let you guys know so you can plug it in. But it is incredible. Yeah. So probably shrimp and grits.
Yeah. I love me some good shrimp and grits, especially. But it's sometimes people fuck up grits, but when somebody does not fuck up the grits,
you could just have it by itself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. So what was it like when you would go out to eat growing up?
You know, I have suppressed those memories or I just don't have any. Like, because I don't think we really, like, it was always like en la casa de arroz. Like, yeah, en la casa de comida. You know, I don't remember going to like McDonald's or anything until I was older. I do remember the company my dad used to work for. My dad used to work for Philips Electronics, corporate, and they used to host like a dinner. And I thought it was like Disney World, like, and I still have never been to Disney, but it was just like, look at this fancy tableware and like, look at all this stuff. Like, oh my God. So I remember those events. And then like when I got my own job and stuff, like I would just be like hanging out at McDonald's, you know, with my friends and all that stuff. But otherwise, it was just, yeah, we're going out to eat at your grandma's house.
Yeah. Which, by the way, sometimes is better than a lot of these restaurants that we go to.
I'm so sick of fast food during this damn pandemic. Like if I just resort to DoorDash one more time, I'm gonna just yell at myself. Like I'm sick of myself.
So tell us your favorite bochinche topic to discuss over a meal.
Let me preface this by saying that I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, bochinche. Like, we're all bochincheros.
Yes.
So can we just all say that out loud?
Proud.
Like,
absolutely.
It's
part of the culture.
Like, there is a healthy dosage of bochinche and like chismoseria.
Yes.
So let's just all admit that for a second. Like, you guys listening at home, tú eres un bochinchero. It's okay. We all agree on that.
Absolutely.
But it depends on the climate, you know. If we have a mutual friend that's doing, you know, some fuck boy or fuck girl shit, we're just like, yo, you saw what homegirl did? Like, usually it's the group chat, whatever's happening in the group chat, you know. It's like, how mad were you when, you know, whatever. But yeah, usually it's just, I mean, it's bochinche, so it's something that's gonna make, you know, entertainment that isn't about you, like basically, whatever like the hot topic of the week is.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to move into our Cheers to the Lady Who section where we shout out dope people doing dope shit. So I have to say, you know, we launched season 4 in the beginning of the pandemic, and that we're, you know, gosh, how many months out? 7 months out. You know, I just have to say cheers to the fact that life has persisted. I mean, at this point, there is such a like low bar for like what is like, you celebrate a sunny day at this point, you know, which in some ways is really wonderful, because I think what the pandemic has taught a lot of us is that we can slow down. Like actually we
Yes.
can take our time. Like actually, no, I can work from home. I can say no to things. Like there's just an ownership of time that I think has been transformed a bit that I really, really appreciate. But I have to say that I'm now in appreciation phase. I think for a while having that time, but feeling like I was on edge waiting for the world to make a very specific shift or direction so I can like lock my focus in took forever. I mean, it was really hard. But I want to hear some updates around like what are some wins that we've been able to get even in the middle of a global pandemic. Skittles, what's up with you? Because you've had a little wild life win.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy about this entire thing is when COVID was beginning, and we had just had like a busy month of like working on the season or whatever and getting ready to like launch it or whatever. But I remember going to work feeling like, oh my God, I do not want to be in this classroom. I do not want to do this. I do not want to do that. And then when COVID came, it was like, did I wish this into existence that I'm like never gonna have to be in a fucking classroom again? Oh my God, what did I do? But really, at the end of the day, as unfortunate of an experience as COVID has been, it has also brought like a lot of great, just like opportunities in terms of like, you know, like you said, like that ownership of time and really kind of doing that self-love for yourself. I started, you know, I stopped drinking in August just to kind of like kick up a little bit of a more healthy self-love, healthy choices, healthier habits. I think all of 2020, my big goal was to become more active, but towards like August, after, you know, I was binge drinking all the time on Zoom, I finally started like working out and like actually taking care of myself.
I need that energy.
And then I premiered in Wildlife as Debbie on Sci-Fi. So now every Saturday night you could catch me on Sci-Fi in a cartoon called Wildlife. So that was really cool. And that was a dope experience because I recorded it over COVID. So I recorded a whole animated series in my closet, essentially.
Wow.
So that was a very cool experience. I feel like I was able to focus a good amount of energy into being creative, which allowed me to stay like sane for the majority of the beginning of the pandemic. And I think that the content that came out of it was all like just like a level up. From the Mira Bitch series that we started with Julissa and Adiza, the music videos that I've done with Joe and Dozo and stuff like that, just like all that content and all the collaborations that were going on. We're dope. We're dope. Yeah, and you know, we still out here, we're still trying to hustle, we're still trying to make things work. And yeah, I don't know.
On keeping
That's
up.
amazing.
Yeah, and you know, I think like for me, interestingly enough, like I got laid off during the pandemic, and so I went from being on the impact team at WeWork with working alongside Miguel McKelvey, who's the fucking co-founder, and it was like a moment. It was like, oh my God, Mom, look, I made it, and it almost felt like I made it on accident, and I was like, how did I even get to this point? And it was such a big moment, and I was just getting into it. You know what I mean? I was just getting into it before everything sort of blew up. And I think that that's where my transition felt a little foggy, because I was like, okay, I was literally set up for what felt like one of the biggest opportunities of my life. And then a virus hit, and now my life choices and like direction that I thought was real is no longer real. And so it was, and I think I'm still sort of in that because I'm still unemployed. I'm still unemployed. But I think when I talked about time, I think having the time to myself really gave me time to think about how do I really step forward into my purpose and the things that I can do and make money off of that. And I feel like I I've spent a lot of time behind the scenes and supporting other entrepreneurs and things like that. And I know how to make the moves. Like I know the blueprint. I just have a deep fear around failure that I'm having to work through, which I think is another, you know, just life update. This pandemic like has forced me to really be reflective and make life choices. You know what I mean? And really understand that I cannot wait for the world to figure itself out in order to figure myself out and to tap into my superpowers. I won a commission, a writer's commission with the Latinx Playwright Circle in partnership with Pregones Theater Company, which was really big for me because when I submitted it, I was like, I'm not gonna get this. I literally sent it with the intention of knowing it was already a failure before it was even open. And then I ended up winning, and that was like crazy. And then I've had like, you know, I have this artistic project I'm doing with Intar Theater where we're going to have pop-up theater, disruptive, almost like, what are those called? Those flash mobs style theater right before the election to encourage people to vote and to make political statements. So like, that's really awesome. And I was able to get an artistic commission from them to start working on another project, just any project. Like what project might I want to get started on? Because the future of theater right now is so up in the air that it's like, you know, the grants and monies that people had left over too, they're like, we still want to create, we still want artists to get paid to create art even during a time. So, you know, I'm in a very interesting position to do that. And yeah, you know, that's where I'm at. Denisse, what about you? What's COVID life been like?
I mean, like Skittles, I thought I manifested this because I thought I manifested a whole ass pandemic. My husband got a new job in December, which requires him, like he just got into this really cool position. He's an awesome like supervisor and just like leader. So he supervises the entire West Coast for a company. And so he had to travel again. And he was traveling like twice a month for a couple of days. And I was like, this bullshit again. Like we already did this. Like, you know, we were already apart. And it was weird. And so he traveled like twice and the pandemic hit. And I was like crying about it. I was like, why do you have to leave? Like, I'm out here by myself, you know, like whatever. And literally then they just suspended all travel. And he just went to work today for the first time since March. Wow. So I was like, oh my God. First of all, I'm either like a really powerful bruja or like, or like some shit is going on because I feel like I caused this. But no, I mean, like everyone who's listening, I'm sure like you guys have had to pivot. You know, my thing is photography and travel. That's like literally I came last year I was on an airplane. I think I counted 11 times, like round trip.
I mean, last year, this time we were at Hispanicize.
Yeah,
literally this week.
Last year.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, it was like a Thursday or something. That's
we
wild.
were literally in LA.
Right?
That's amazing. Yeah. I was like right before that, I was in Kenya for like half a month with a nonprofit, like shooting some stuff. And before that, I was in the city. And before that, I was like here and there. And it was like doing what I really, really love, which is just photographing things and people and traveling. And so not being able to do that, I really had to like shift my business. And so I do a lot of influencer work, which is cool. I would like to say and speak for myself that I approach it differently. So I don't like just being like, oh my God, like look at this lotion that they sent me, like whatever. Like I'll still do that in my stories, like thanks for the free lotion. But I don't, you know, I'm very particular about the sponsorships that I do, just because I feel like it's a big reflection of like my ethos and just what I'm representing. And I'm not trying to like just be out here supporting like racist or problematic people.
Yes.
So that was really hard because at that time, especially like when Black Lives Matter came into the conversation, everyone wanted to wear. If you were like a little bit tan, like you ain't even have to be like fully brown. If you were just like sun-kissed, they were just like, hi, how are you? We love your content. We'd love to work with you. And so it was like just kind of like learning to use my discernment, learning what kind of questions to ask, training down a lot of money during a pandemic where most of my money that I'm making is not coming in. But luckily, you know, I work solely with content creators and small business owners. And so a lot of them were also pivoting and had to have new websites, media kits, you know, needed a consultation to learn how, you know, what the best way to pivot was. And so I did a lot of that, a lot of big wins. Like I've scored a lot of my highest paying collaborations this year, which is bizarre. And I've worked with some of the coolest companies that only work with like Blanquitas and whatever that I pitched to, because I was like, I'm gonna also make this work to my advantage. You're not about to say no to me. So here's a plan, and this is the budget. So a lot of that has been really awesome. My favorite part about all this is that I started therapy again, which is great. I had an amazing therapist in the city that I went to for like 6-7 years. And obviously because of the state difference, like she wasn't allowed to practice here. And so I was just really bummed because this was a very like, even like the thing about trauma is like, even if it has like its good stuff, it's still traumatic. So this was like a very, very like, just a huge thing. And like, you know, there were little bits of trauma about it, not having anyone to express that to, and being like living a pandemic, and just, you know, like I had no motivations. Like I was on my Peloton like 5 days a week, and I was doing all this stuff, and then I was just like, I just don't even want to get out of bed. So having someone to like talk through, to like with those about those things has been really, really awesome. And I just got fucking lucky as hell. Somebody recommended her to me, and I love her because therapy shopping is exhausting, and like sometimes you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna help myself because fuck this shit. But she's awesome. And so yeah, that's been, I think that's been my biggest win so far, is finding like a therapist that I love.
Nice.
Yes, come on, Denisse, with these gems.
So Skittles, you had a shout out for somebody who got a big win during.
Oh, I wanted to cheers to Britney Spears for being able to choose her own representation in court for the first time in 12 years. This bitch has been under a conservatorship for 12 years and has not been able to make any legal decisions for 12 years. So, you know, it's a big deal. It's for her at least, and for the fans.
It's a huge deal. Yeah. Wait, I have a question about that though.
Yes.
Do you think, this is just like an observation as someone who's on the outside, does not know Britney, like whatever. Do you think that after being in a conservatorship for 12 years and like just kind of having your life managed like that, like putting yourself in her place, do you think that you would make a sound decision? Like, do you think you'd be capable of making a sound decision? Or are you just gonna like be like, I'm gonna rehire my dad's lawyer? You know, like that's my fear, that she's gonna hire someone in like their circle, because it's like, what else do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this whole thing, well, his father was like petitioning against her being able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's definitely obvious that like her father doesn't want or doesn't feel that she's capable of doing this. But I also wonder if it's like she's become like this cash cow for this family, right? Like they've made a ton of money while she's under this conservatorship that's usually used for people who are under a vegetative state, right? So I wonder if her acting sane and her acting normal has only helped his case in being able to control her.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we can only speculate. I think he just keeps her medicated so that she appears to be like incoherent and or like just not there.
Yeah, I don't know. I just hope that this is a good step in another direction for her, because I couldn't imagine not being able to make any legal or personal decisions without my parents like making it for me. What? Or sometimes it being an outside lawyer that has no relation to me.
Right.
Or no desire to see you like their desires is in the interest of the other person who's benefiting from your entire situation. Yeah, that's a really big win. When I saw that you posted it on Facebook, I was like, no. I was like, wait, is this like the Onion? Hold on. Is this real? Because like we've been rooting for this. I like signed a petition and everything. That's my girl's Britney, bitch.
Right.
Yes.
I'm happy to see it too. I'm hoping, like Skittle says, it's a step in the right direction, because I'm here for another round of a Britney evolution and like seeing what comes out of that, both artistically and just like in general, right? With like how she presents and what she puts on her platforms and all that stuff. I just think, you know, why not? Why not? It's her you know, and then there's been other things like we started like right before the pandemic, we lost Kobe Bryant, but this week the LA Lakers won the championship. And having the LeBron James at the center of that, and having his voice be a center in Black Lives Matter, for example, and not a center. I'm going to retract that. Not a center, but when it comes to the NBA and that organization has been centered in the conversation. And so to see that tie was just kind of like a double win. I'm not a Lakers fan, like individually, but I was still here for the win. I was not going to be about it. But really have just been here in general cheering for our Black Lives Matter movement, because I think for me, even in content creation, like there's always a way in which I feel awkward having to subscribe to whatever challenges or popular things are happening on the internet, because I am just generally the bitch who's talking politics and cares about those things. I just like to do it in my authentic way that isn't very NPR-ish, right? So for me, having this Black Lives Matter thing open up, and then, like you said, Denisse, having people in a moment where they have to pivot all of a sudden and freaking out, I feel like opened up a little hole of opportunity for me to think about how I have a presence. Spaces that I really don't care to have a presence for myself, but if I'm appealing to some degree and I can talk my shit about things that I do care about, then why not put some energy towards that? Because I was on my phone anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right?
Like,
yeah.
On my phone anyway, might as well make some use of it. So there's been some big ones all around. So cheers. Usually we would do this with our glasses in person and drink with my water. Hydrated.
I don't even have
my
anything to drink here.
Right, lip gloss.
Oh, can I have some?
All right, so now we're moving into our Tuta Loca Es, what we call motherfuckers out who are doing the most. Voter suppression, ladies and gentlemen, is alive and well in this country during one of the most important elections in our generation. So in Texas and in Georgia, they've already started with early voting. And there have been record numbers in terms of people who are showing up and showing out for these elections. And by the way, we can't tell if it's a big turnout leaning left or right necessarily. But we do know that on both sides, people feel very viscerally that they want to protect and have their candidate win. This is literally like insert two really heavy hitter boxers having a match. Like not the candidates themselves are. Let me be clear. I do not think that Trump is a heavy hitter, nor Biden is, but the issues that they have to speak to are. And so it's like this heavy election. Trump is talking about how he doesn't know that he trusts the way the election is going to go already, on top of the fact that there is some voter suppression that is seemingly leaning right, in the sense that in California, there are, boxes that have been put around neighborhoods to drop off your Republican ballot, but they're not official poll locations. They're just boxes that are being put up. And so, the question becomes like, what's happening with all those votes? But then someone might say, what if a conspiracy, right? Because we're full of those these days. A conspiracy could be like, oh yeah, they collect it as those for Republicans, but then they hold their own votes, and later when he loses, they can come back with those votes and be like, look, somebody messed with the Republican vote.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like, and at first you hear that and you're like, that sounds like a lot of work. But when you think about the deterioration of America over the years, it always takes mad work because it's so conniving, but people are so determined to keep power that they do these things. And so it doesn't start to sound so ridiculous when you really, really think about it. Anyway, all that to say, it's really difficult to see that there's so much voter suppression that is evident and doesn't seem to be addressed. Right? Like I feel like I hear the news reports, but I don't ever really hear the full solutions. And I feel like we had a lot of news reports talking about the anticipation of this, but I'm like, where was the counteraction? And not just from small groups and community organizers who were trying to be on foot because they were there. I don't want to act like they're not, but it's like, yeah, these people who also don't have the platform and power enough to make that effective enough, but it'll make a difference in small places. But it goes both ways. I was just watching how in Pennsylvania, the Trump campaign has a whole fleet of people on foot with digital technology to make sure that people are voting, registering, and the numbers are showing that a lot of these, small business owners in Pennsylvania, which is currently a red state, they voted for Trump last election, and they're feeling really like they're regaining their trust in Trump.
Yeah.
For a while, people thought he wasn't going to win, but they're on foot too. And so just as much voter suppression as is happening, the Republican Party is very tactful in how it's recruiting its voters. And on our side, there's just a lot of mistrust. Like, I feel like we're in an unhealthy relationship, not just with the government, but even the Democratic Party, as people are saying. And I feel like voter suppression is just one of many different issues that might fuck us over this election. So I bring all that up to ask and wonder, what have your guys' thoughts been around voter suppression, but voting in general? Like, what the hell do you think is going to happen after this election?
I'm scared either way. I like with the amount of people that I myself have witnessed that have this attitude towards voting, where it's like, they don't think that their voice is gonna even count. I have family members that have that attitude, and it's like, what? So even like, I just like. I can't say that I'm shocked to hear that that this is going on, because in 2020 it's like, what else is shocking? But it's like, I'm curious to know what the solution is, because I can't even think of one myself, and even sitting here,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, there's like not much. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, here in Arizona, obviously I'm way out in the West Coast, in the Southwest, and Arizona is a red state, essentially. People say it's like a purple state. I'm like, that shit is red as hell.
Right.
So like, I don't know where y'all be going, but the shit is red. And today's the 14th. The deadline for voter registration was extended to the 23rd, and we just found out yesterday that it was retracted, and it's only extended to tomorrow, the 15th. Voter
suppression as fuck.
Yeah, so people literally have until tomorrow, like 7 p.m. to register to vote if they haven't registered already. And when I Googled it, I couldn't find anything on it. I found out about it through like a small publication, Arizona publication on Twitter. So like, maybe now, because it's 6 p.m. here now, so maybe if you look it up now, like, you might be able to find it, but you couldn't find any like actual source that told you that the date changed. So people still don't know. News outlets aren't talking about it.
What?
And it's like, it is so trifling out here. Like, let me tell y'all, it is trifling. I mean, it's been like, we've had our Black Lives Matter protests and all that stuff, and people are, I mean, it's a predominantly like Hispanic community, but very impoverished, or like, lower income, underserved communities, and who have been gravely affected by COVID, who have lost their jobs, who are either working factory jobs or have like small, taquerias or whatever, small businesses, and have been greatly impacted. The language barrier has been a huge issue for voters. So I've worked along with when Michelle Obama's organization and a few other celebrities, When We All Vote, I've worked a lot with them this campaign season to encourage the Latinx youth to vote in Arizona. There's going to be like, I don't remember the exact number, but I know that it's a ton of Latinx youth voters who turn 18 before the election and who are eligible to vote. So I'm hoping like that we can actually, even just in the country, like the amount of Latinx youth that turn 18 this year can actually like swing the election if they all vote. So it's just been a lot here. There's a lot of like, obviously we've seen how Trump has encouraged just poor behavior, racism, xenophobia, like just everything that you can think of. So you've seen a lot of that here. Like in the beginning, when like Black Lives Matter stuff started happening, there was like a YouTuber, I don't know his name. He came out here and like looted the mall, the bougie mall in Scottsdale, and it was during a Black Lives Matter protest, and it became like a big thing. So that night we have an app. I don't know if you guys have it, or if like New Yorkers use it, but it's called Nextdoor. And basically, you can just like see what's happening in your neighborhood. Like people will be like, I'm selling this, or like whatever, I need help with this, like whatever. And one of our like, it's like a little community, and you can usually see like way out of your community, like within like 10 miles. But in our small community, like I saw somebody who was like, well, I'm ready with my shotgun in the front, in the front yard. If one of those like, colored folk come out here, like whatever. Because people were saying like, the black people were coming to like come into your house, like lock your shit, like just real ignorant shit. So that was what the climate was. And that climate, I feel like usually impacted like what voting is going to be like. I mean, we mentioned voter suppression. It's happening. Like we're seeing it happen today here in Arizona. I don't know. Like he was out here, he did a Latinos for Trump campaign, and like everybody's mom was out there. I was like, where y'all find these people? Like where do these people come from? He filled out like a whole thing, and people don't wear masks and they don't care. And so I'm trying to be, I'm more of a realist and an optimist, like I'm very analytical. I like to like just prepare myself for the worst. So I'm like, okay, we might not be like the thing that helps this election. Like, please do not count on us, Arizonians, which I do not claim to be, but please do not count on Arizona for this election, because it's just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of like, well, he's gonna win anyway, so my vote doesn't count, my vote doesn't matter. Which I will be 100% honest, the first time I ever voted, I'm 30 years old, the first time I ever voted was last election, because I didn't want him to win. Because I never had any, I'm so thankful for social media today, because I never had anyone tell me my vote was important. I never had anyone, urge me to register to vote. I registered to vote, I think I was shooting Panorama Festival in New York, and somebody was just like, hey, you want to register to vote? And I was like, I fucking guess, whatever. And like that person stopped and talked to me and like kind of explained how voting works. Like I've learned so much from friends by asking questions. And so I do feel also like Skittles was saying, like there are a lot of people, just my family, my family is predominantly like super far right. So I'm like one of the like black sheep that's just like, no, fight the power. And so like we have those, and then we just have people out here who are, I have family members who are like, I don't know, they're both awful, and I'm just not voting. I don't want to be a part of this.
They don't want to make the decision.
Right, which is, like a vote for anyone, but at this point, I will say this, you guys don't have to agree, a vote for anyone but Biden right now is a vote for Trump. Like, do not be voting for Kanye. Do not be voting for like, please, like he's on the ballot, I think in California. So like just it's just a lot, like between just it's a shit show. Like our entire country is a really bad sitcom right now.
Yeah, and I think that like, and thank you for sharing, and like when the first time you voted was, because I think another thing that I'm noticing about just voting in the culture of voting and how it's shifted, especially for younger generations, is that the information of voting and the importance and how you like lean into it is very much driven by what like social media platforms are saying about it, and how influencers are talking about it. And so there's been the shift of, these different parties having to depend on the influencers, even the TikTokers, right? To like really be the ones to drive an information and funnel. And even culturally for us, and even though I'm not one of these people who gets approached, but when I become one of these people, right, like when I become one of these people, I think that it's interesting how it's a quick solution packaging of a message and throw it in their face so they can just do it, and not a clear investigation laying out understanding of the why, right? So when you tell somebody who's an abolitionist who's like, listen, I'm ready for change, it's just, y'all want to go do it on a little piece of paper, and I'm telling you, burn it to the ground, right? So like you have these like extremes, and it's kind of like, well, clearly that person isn't completely aligned with what voting is, but like when you think about it, the missing link there is not so much that the abolitionists think that people who want to vote are crazy and have zero desire for change, but that they know that those are the very people who, like, if it had to happen in reverse, like, are these people who are passionate about the vote actually passionate enough about the causes to know that if it became a civil war, God forbid, are really down to fight for the cause? Or are those the same people who are going to be scared and just conform right back? And so we're never going to take the power back because we're always going to be too afraid to step up. And so I feel like because they make it very black and white, and on the internet, it's like, I can post a meme that makes the statement about abolitionists, and I can be an abolitionist that posts this meme that judges people who engage in voting. We're fighting each other, and the Republicans are laughing their way off. You know what I mean? Back into the White House. Like, it just is frustrating. And I think we need to open up the dialogue around voting, because there is value in listening to the why for some people, why they don't want to vote, not because you should follow suit, but because in that, I think you understand that the power of the vote and the power to have the opportunity is the opportunity to do the things that these abolitionists want to do without using the system of voting to get it done. So we are on the same team, but how are we speaking to each other? And why are we letting media, whether social media or just regular media outlets, dictate the culture of what you have to believe? Like, if you follow the Shade Room, then you wait for Shade Room to tell you your opinion on something. Like, why is that the case? What did you think about it before anybody told you, before you read the caption? Before you read the comments, you know what I mean? Before you went to see if the person who reposts things that you trust, what they think first, so that you can then say, oh, okay, well, if they think that, it must be the safe thought. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's my rant. That's my rant.
Yeah, I just want to add to that really quick.
Yes, please.
Like I think one of the biggest issues with a lot of what you said is the misinformation and like disinformation. So I learned this weekend, I took a training on disinformation and like the Black and Hispanic community. And like misinformation is just like bad information that's out there. Like your aunt is posting about like how COVID, you breathe your oxygen back in and your brain cells die. Like so like that. And then disinformation is information that is purposely divisive and like just, you know, people are out there just putting, you know, like putting poll locations or something that don't exist. And one of the things that I realized like about our generation is that this is like, I always call it the microwave generation. Like we want everything done for us and served for us and thought for us. So like if I can't consume it in like a reel, like 15 seconds, then I don't want to know more about it. And so it's a lot of like lack of education. It's a lot of, you know, like a lot of the stuff that I've learned, I've had to research on my own. I've had to be like, okay, what is the Electoral College? Like if you ask 10 of your friends, well, not your friends specifically, because they're probably mad. Well, but if you have 6 people,
yes, 10 of our
like,
friends.
like 7 to 8 of them might not know what the hell it is and what it does and why it's so outdated, you know? And so I have personally, like, I will be the first to admit that I have just been like, you know what? Like, how can you vote for this person? Like, I'm cutting you off. I'm done. A lot of it is done from like, you know, the issues that they, like the issues that they agree with that support him, you know, it's like, oh, like I really can't fuck with you. Like, okay, not everyone that I saw a quote that says not everyone that votes for Trump is a racist, but all of them decided that racism wasn't a deal breaker. And that's really, really big for me, you know, and things like that, where I have been aggressive and I have been like, you know what, Thea, we about to unfriend you on Facebook because I'm done with you. Like things like that. But it's the lack of information. It's like, you know, like you really have to have the desire to learn and do your own research. Like I am on Reddit sometimes and I'm like, okay, let me see what these, you know, these wild right wingers are posting, because you need to know both sides. Like you can't just be have a biased opinion where, you know, but like what people are saying, it's, you know, they're both horrible and who am I going to vote for? It doesn't matter. Like I think of it this way, like we are literally a house that's already falling apart. We are one hurricane away from just being blown away. And there is a tree that is about to fall on us, right? And we have 2 choices. We got a rusty ass butter knife that we have right now, and we have an old saw that's like, you know, a little bit dangerous. But what is going to hold us up? What is going to allow us to cut that tree down and shift it the other way so that we can then go fix the issues that we have back behind us in the house? Like this is what we're looking at between 2 candidates. No one is perfect. We are never going to have a perfect candidate, not in my generation, not in the next one. Unless we build a robot like to our standards, and even still we won't all agree. So I think that's something to think about, and just like people really just need to take the time out to read. And it's all heavy. Politics are heavy. They're not for everyone. Like I can talk about this all day because I love it and I'm passionate about change, and we're all passionate about, our communities. And there are some people that are just like, I'm passionate about making enough money to feed my family this week. Like, I don't have time to think about that. And that's totally understandable. But that's one of the biggest issues that I've seen, is just a lack of, because of people's lack of desire or lack of energy and bandwidth to research these topics, people are taking advantage and putting out a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's really just confusing people and making us combative. And like, I just be wanting to put my Timbs on and fight everybody, honestly. At this point, like, that's pretty much it.
Yes. Love that. Vote. People,
please
vote. I know it sounds whack. I know it sounds corny. I know it feels like it makes no sense. We're from New York, where they say, oh, well, New York is always blue. And I encourage you to look at the election map results from last year, so that you understand that, yes, because New York City is very heavily populated, we are the ones who end up pulling that blue in. But look at your state, New York. It is a red state. Up. Go up.
Mm-hmm.
It's so red.
Mm-hmm.
It's startling how red New York is. And look at Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. It's startling how red New York actually is. And if we, the people who are comfortable, who are the blues, are a little too comfortable and don't feel like risking it for COVID, but y'all be up in the Heights smoking the hookah and going to the brunches, I see us. I'm watching us, okay? Like, no me van a sacar con esa de que oh, por COVID, fuck that. Get up and go and just do the shit. Just do it.
Yep.
Just do it and don't risk it. It is just not worth. It's just not worth the risk. And if you feel it's not going to create real change, then vote, and then give me a presentation on what real change you thought you was about to do that was in the system of voting. And let's see how we come together and do both, because both things can be true. That's my vote pitch.
Ooh, this looks good. Oh
my God, this is delicious.
I definitely want to taste that. Pass the salt.
Now we're going to move into our plate of the day, our main topic. And today we're going to talk about the color of love, right? So Denisse, you talk a lot about, you started and you shared a bit about your boo, your beta boo, and how you found him. But I want to know, in terms of the dynamic that you guys have, being an interracial couple. So I want to unpack that a bit more. This season, we are unpacking the intersection of Black lives. And I think Black love is really important. And I think that Black women oftentimes are at the center of criticism of how we do or don't show up for our communities, and how we, present things, or how we do or don't support the men in our own communities. And so suddenly choices like who we love become the center of who you are as a person and what you think about your Blackness and your identity, which I personally think is fucked up. But I also have actually never been at the center of an interracial relationship. I've never dated a white guy before. And not because I'm like, fuck white guys, just because I grew up in a time when, like, I was really into like Linkin Park and all that stuff on top of it, popping on my regular culture. But for some reason, because I had Jay-Z talking about girls, but then I had, other people like rock songs talking about love and beauty. And I'd always be like, these white boys are so romantic. Oh my God. I really want a white boy. And I used to like be proud and parade this idea that I knew I was going to be with a white guy, but it was very much rooted in a toxic mindset around, this idea that white guys are better because Black guys are emotionally unavailable, rowdy, and don't know how to love their women. I've grown out of that. That was something that happened in high school, and I was in high school with white boys for the first time ever in my life. Oh my God, it was a revolution. And I think that sort of experience subconsciously made me fall back from, even as an adult, being like, oh, I'm aggressively chasing white guys. But it also set me up, or high school at least fucked me up in the way where it was like none of those white boys liked me. So I had this like notion in my head that it's not that I'm against interracial dating, it's that I don't fit the mold of what these people see in their future. And otherwise, when they're looking at their Thanksgiving table, like I don't look good at the family table is what I always struggled with. But I'm glad to know so many people who navigate these relationships and have insights on how untrue that can be, and how, like, though my experience is a valid one, that there are other experiences and there's not just one way that these things go. But before we even go into unpacking all of those dynamics, I want to hear from you. When you were growing up and you dreamt about what love would look like for you and your future was, What did that image look like for you? How does your current reality differ? And how does your current reality differ from that?
Oof. When I was growing up, I come from like a very dysfunctional, my parents had a very dysfunctional relationship. I think a lot of people can relate to the story. It's very normal where we come from. So I really wanted to be alone. Like I was really just like, I'm gonna be a badass. I'm gonna get out of this small town. I'm gonna, do really big things. I'm gonna get, if I ever want children, I'm gonna adopt or get a surrogate or something like that. And I'm just gonna be a badass woman raising children on my own. And so I never really I was never trusting, in love. Like it was just it was a lot of people, like I come from a very religious background too. So it was a lot of people getting married really young because that's what like the Bible said to do, or that's how evangelical culture is. Like you get married really young so that you don't sin and you could just, have sex and not feel bad about it. And then you're 20 with like 3 kids and you hate everything, So I was surrounded by a lot of that. And so that, even just growing up, like seeing different relationships, and I was just like, oh, like, isn't that like Hermanita's husband with otra hermanita in the corner? Like things like that, where I just had no trust for people. And so I was just like, okay, like I'm self-sufficient and independent enough where I don't need this. So it was never something I desired. Like I never looked at like the Disney movies and was like, I can't wait to find my Prince Charming to come save me from the hood. Like I just was like, whatever. So it obviously differs now, because even up until when I went right before I met my husband, I was still like trying to be Shonda Rhimes, who's one of my favorite people ever. And I was just like, Shonda ain't got no man. She got 100,000 TV shows. Like Grey's Anatomy's been around for like 80 years. Like that shit gonna be around when she dies. Like she's just so powerful and amazing. And that's who I want to be. Like I want to emulate her. Like I want to just have my own little, clique. I want my own little family, but just me. And then obviously I met him and that all changed. And so my life is completely different from where I thought I'd be.
Nice. And I think I love that was your answer, because I think like in my head, I was like, because I'm the opposite, like mine was the opposite. I grew up with parents who, they're going to have 41 years of marriage in January. And
wow.
My mom, like my dad was my mom's first a lot of things from what I know. Cause there's the stories they want to tell and then there's the truth.
They be lying.
So to my knowledge, right. And so I've always had this setup around love that is very Disney princess, that is very, not even rescue complex, because I've never felt the need to be rescued, but I've always imagined like the nucleus, like the family, but that I myself am a bad bitch in that. Like I imagine like I've always imagined power couples, and my parents in a way are a power couple, even though like they're not Jay-Z and Beyonce in terms of like what their job is, but the way that they work within the systems that they do participate in feels very power couple-y. So I've always had that image in my head and the need to have someone. So to have that be switched from a very like independent, like just me mindset into finding someone who actually is like, yeah, partner, you know what I mean? And it's just like, that is so beautiful. So I'm also curious, what challenges or benefits, as some would say, have you faced in dating someone outside the culture? And I put that in quotes because culture, I think like there's a cultural identity that has to do with your ethnicity and stuff like that. But then there's like cultures of things that people like and that are common. Like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody's really into hip hop culture and to a degree, does that give them a pass that's a Black card if they're not Black? No, but like there is a commonality in a culture, right? So like this idea that you date outside the culture, it's like, well, what's outside? Like how many boxes are we really checking here? Is it just a skin color? Because culturally we connect for a reason.
Yeah.
But what are some challenges or benefits that you face in dating outside the culture?
Yeah, I think I'll start off really vulnerable. When I first started dating my husband, I was like fucking around with therapy. Like I was making great money in the city, shooting everybody. So I was just like, here's whatever a week for me to pretend I'm telling you my problems. And then I realized like, so the guy that I dated before that was white, and I've only ever had like one Latinx boyfriend. So I was like, okay, I grew up hearing things like, oh, mira, el novio de, you know, so-and-so es blanquito, va a tener pelo bueno, the eyes are going to be nice, you know, y hay que mejorar la raza, and things like that. Not from my family in particular, like my immediate family, but just like friends and other family members. And so one of the things that I did, because I am like hyper self-aware, is I went to therapy and I was like, I need to know that I'm not just pursuing this person because he is well off, white, established. And like I need to know that this is not just me succumbing to like the societal norms or the societal desires of my culture and like my family. Like, you do better. Like, you know, you get out of like, what do? You get out of the hood. You get the person that's gonna help you get the car. You get whatever. Like, you get the dude with the good credit score. Like things like that I would hear people say. And so that was a really big challenge for me because like I come from just a personality where I used to self-sabotage a lot. So I was like, I really want this to work. And so I'm gonna need to do like a lot of self-reflection because like, is this what I really want as a person? Like, is this what Denisse wants? Or is this what Denisse's family wants? And it is so ingrained in me that I am making these lifelong decisions based on what I think will make me a better person or give me the life that I'm supposed to have. So that's number one. And then just like challenges, we don't really like my husband embraces the culture, you know, like I'll play like bachata on Saturdays or something if I'm cleaning, or like salsa, merengue, whatever, and he'll just like pretend to sing along and like be dancing in the kitchen. Like, and I mean, we mentioned it before, but my husband's white, like he's 100% gringo, does not know like a Spanish. I think that the only thing that he knows how to say in Spanish is like yo soy el fuego, and that is his like answer to everything. So he'll just be like I'll be saying something, he'll be like yo soy el fuego. So like he's very, you know, he loves my mom's food. Like, we do have like very different palates, and that's been a challenge too culturally, because even like where I come from, like I lived in Little Mexico in Jersey, so I'm like, them tacos are legit. And I'm like, here is some weird Tex-Mex shit where everything got cheese. And like, and I'm like, that's not a taco, bro. Like, what is this? So like, we have different palates. We just, even culturally, like you said, like we do things differently, you know, like we just operate differently, like not just ethnic cultural differences, but even just like coast differences. Like people on the West Coast are so different from people on the East Coast. Like, we had a quick incident, unrelated, but I just think it's such a trifling story that I'm gonna just tell it. So 2 nights ago, right? We got these neighbors that we can't stand, they're renters, and my Amazon groceries got delivered to their house, right? So we have cameras everywhere because I don't trust nobody out here. So I was like, we getting cameras like both ways and alert me of everything. And we saw him like pick up the groceries, put them in his house, and then just drive off to whatever. So we went and knocked on the door. My husband went and knocked on the door, and his wife was home, but she didn't open. They rarely do. Like, we've had issues with them before, and they never answered the door. So my husband wrote a note. He was like, all right, so basically this is what's gonna happen. Return our groceries or the $60 that we paid for them. Like, they belong next door, whatever. So homeboy returns our groceries, right? And like puts he staples like a federal law thing that says that he is not legally obligated to return anything to us, right? Yeah, un maldito loco. and so like culturally, I wanted to approach this very differently. Like, I was 100% ready to physically fight a grown-ass man. Like 100% ready. What they gonna do? Put me in jail? Like, my husband's white. Ain't nobody doing that to me, you know? But I was really like just so ready to just throw up. Like, somebody do that shit to you in the Bronx, it's a wrap.
Yeah,
like,
that is a full fight. Like,
give me my groceries. You about to come to the bodega with me, and you get in next week's groceries too. Like, this ain't ending here. Like, we fight. Needless to say that you don't know my situation. What if like I didn't have any money and somebody, you guys gifted those groceries to me because I was struggling or something like that, whatever. It was a lot. But even just that situation where my like West Coast, like nice, calm people are just like, oh, it's groceries, we'll get a refund, like whatever. And I was like, it's the principle of things. Like, I'm ready to fight. Where my Tim's at? Like, you just don't do that shit. Like, he needs to know I'm not the one. Like, he needs to know that he can't ever fuck with me ever again in his life. Like, so aggressive. And so we've had like situations like that where I just, he comes from a very calm and like chill family. And I come from a lot of, just aggression and just like, like we're just always ready, even in like good ways and bad ways. Like I stay ready so I don't gotta get ready.
Right. Right.
And so that's been like just a funny challenge sometimes. But one of the things that like I've been learning to work through is like learn from him. He's also 7 years older than me. So he's like, okay, like, well, like you gotta think like you're too pretty to be somebody's girlfriend in jail. Like, come on, like you gotta just relax. Like that where it's like, okay, you're right. Like I'm not thinking this through, like just where I come from, that is how we resolve things, like with words. With we throw elbows, like that's just who I grew up around. But other than that, like it's been like beautiful just to see him embrace my culture, to see how a lot of his family members have just embraced me, and just like have made me feel right at home. It's been really lovely. It's a learning experience every day, especially during the pandemic when like there is nowhere to go. Like we're seeing each other every day, so we're learning a lot about each other all the time. We're literally together 24/7. Like I'm in my office, he has his office, which is great, because we get to like have that separation when we need it. But it's still been like, well, I deal with this way. Like, okay, like I'm in survival mode. Where we come from, it's like something like this is like we're saving everything. Like la funda that this came in, we're saving it because we don't know when we're gonna have a funda again. Like, the container, like we're saving that. We don't know what's gonna happen. Like with COVID, what if they stop making containers? And it's like I immediately go into like that panic. Like, all right, well, doomsday. Like I remember my family was one of the really religious families that prep for Y2K. Like, so I'm like Y2K mode. Like we're gonna have SpaghettiOs in the basement for 10 years. Like we're gonna be ready. And he's just like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think we're gonna be okay. And just like learning from him in that way, and just learning, how. I mean, like if we're keeping it G too, like one of the coolest things that my husband ever taught me, he's like, when you go negotiate a deal, when you go into a meeting, he's like, just think like a white man. We don't ask questions. Like I've heard him. When he was negotiating his salary for this job, I was like, I think we're good. Like you good. They're gonna take the job away from you. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, no. He's like, I'm sure they can give me more. Like they're a big company. Like I can get more, or like whatever. Like I'm like, oh, like, is that how you're gonna email your boss? Like, what? You're not even gonna say. He's like, they don't give a shit. And I'm like, wow, like these people really just be out here with the confidence of like 1,000 suns. Like they just don't care. And I've like, I've adopted that confidence and be like, okay, like I'm actually a powerful like Black woman. And I'm just gonna take that same confidence, because why not? Because I deserve it too, And he's like, he's always just saying like, you're so much smarter than me, like you're so much capable than I am in so many different areas. Like all you need is that confidence. Like these people, these unqualified people that we see in these positions that are normally white or of different ethnicities that we're just like, yo, how the fuck is Susan getting like promoted again for the 10th time while I'm sitting here in my 8th year here, like still behind the desk? And you're just like, because Susan's out here taking what's hers and she's not asking questions. She's just like, hey, I'm due for a raise. This is how much I want, or I walk. Where we are so used to like uncertainty and we have that fear of failure. Like it's so ingrained in our culture. And that fear of like, like in our culture, we take care of our parents. So it's like, I got to keep this job because my parents can't take care of me. Like I'm basically like, I got to take care of them. I can't, my siblings can't take care of me. Like we grow up with like the only person we can rely on is ourselves, as much as our family members love us. And so we don't make those decisions with that notion, because it's like that risk is too much for me. And so for them, it's just like, fuck it, give me the raise or I'm out. Yeah, I ain't gonna fire me, And so things like that culturally have really, really just benefited my confidence personally, my business personally. Like I've made so much more money. Like my husband's been like, add another zero to that ask. And I'm like, another zero? Like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm about to lose this whole campaign. Like, are you nuts? He'd be like, add another zero. And they'd be like, okay, we can do that. And it's just like, what? Like, what the hell? So just things like that, where it's a lot less like lovey-dovey, but just culturally it's been a ride.
Yeah, no, it's the safety of knowing that, like, it's someone who knows you, sees you, loves you, that's guiding you, and not somebody who would recommend, and somebody who'd be honest with you. Like, I get the impression that, like, if there were a situation where he'd be like, oh honey, your blackness is going to play a different role here, I can say as a white man, like, I trust, based off of like the way in which you guys work together, that he would be able to do that. And he is not like, a lot of times when I hear arguments from Black men who are against this idea of Black women dating white men, it's always this concept that, like, oh well, they'll like subjugate us to a degree, or you know, they'll accessorize us to a degree, and there's never this idea that there's perhaps this level of empowerment or go-getterness that exists, yes, in the posture of white people, right? And it's not a malicious you know, it doesn't come out of malice. It's just they've lived in a different reality, and so the confidence with which they move is a different reality. But I think the difference between somebody who knows and is woke versus somebody who's not is understanding the moments where the gift and the gem is not just, you go honey, like, yeah,
Yeah.
wrap that hair before bed, sunshine. Like, you know, it's not just down with the typical, it's being able to say, oh, I know what usually the case is, but like, move like this, like, make the, like, you know what I mean? Like, encouraging your women and supporting them in that way. And I think that the way support looks like for some of our Black men, and I'm speaking very cishet right now, and I'm not of other, but because the stereotypes of these gender norms, men versus women, are so strong, I think the way the Black man is told he has to care for the Black woman is very different than what the white male thinks he has to care about a woman in general, right? Like the way is different. And so I feel like there is a freedom for men who aren't Black to really be able to dive into a different level, and our men too, if they're willing to go there, if they're willing to get out of the, you know, the cultural norms, in the sense of that culture of gender norm culture. So I'm actually curious, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about dating? Like, you know, some people, like, whether it's sexual misconceptions or just dynamic misconceptions that people might have about you and your relationship, or just you specifically in the relationship, or how your husband is in the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one we've gotten is that I'm a racist because I'm dating a white man. Like, that's a thing I get often, especially when like Black Lives Matter started. I mean, I've always been very vocal about race and, you know, and underserved communities and everything. But I get a lot of, like, when I got married, I mean, a couple months ago, like, I posted screenshots of just people that were just like, I hope you get COVID and die. Like, you don't love Black people. Like, you're sitting here, you're a fraud. You're just doing it for likes. Like, if you love Black people, you'd be supporting a Black man and not, like, you know, like, I've had people that have been like, do you think your husband actually loves you? Like, you don't think that he's sitting there with his friends saying, like, I finally got a Spanish maid who's going to just take care of me for the rest of my life and shit like that. So there's a lot of like hateful misconceptions where people project their biases and their racism and their whole internal shit show on your relationship, especially on the internet, where like these keyboard warriors just be saying whatever the fuck comes out their ass at any time. So there's a lot of that. Then there's like silly ones, like, oh, like, you know, does he complain about the smell of like the food, you know, because white people's food just be smelling like lemon pepper and that's it. Like when you're making sazon, like, does he complain, you know, whatever, like, does he, like, is it weird? Like, they'll think he thinks it's weird. They think, you know, personally in my family, like, because I'm, you know, I share a lot on the internet, I try to be like super vulnerable, whatever, but I'm also a fiercely private person. And so like I am private offline and online. I'm extremely private offline, especially when it comes to like my family, because I come from a very large family. My mom has 17 brothers and sisters. I have a quadrillion cousins, and my dad's family is big too. So I really try to like just control, you know, I curate like the information that's out there in real life about me too. And so because of that, because now everyone has met my husband, or really knows who he is, there's a lot of like, oh, you know, he doesn't let her do anything. Like he has her out there sequestered or something, you know, like she hasn't visited us through a pandemic because he doesn't let her. Like, no, bitch, I just ain't trying to die. Like things like that that we get. And just like, other than that though, I think because I've been so vocal from the jump about like, this is what it is. Like, this is my husband. I love him. He loves me. He supports me. Like, my man's is out here like literally just being the most. He took a year off of work to work with me and learn my business, and lived off of like his savings so that I could get established here. You know, like that's like, not everyone can say that they have a partner who is willing to do that. You know, who's willing to actually invest in you that way. Like I always have like ideas and shit, you know, and he's just like, all right, cool, like. Bring me a pitch, like whatever. If you can bring me good numbers, like let's do it. We'll invest in ourselves, you know. And just like where people think it's just like boring all the time, or like, you know, like that, like you said, like the sex is whack or whatever. Like I am very happy. Let me just tell you, I am very happy.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear. I am extremely happy. So it's just like stupid stuff. Like people read like Jezebel and BuzzFeed articles and think that they can make assumptions about shit. But mostly it's just, I think the most like the things that you think about are like they're really like hateful misconceptions where you're just like, damn, how you even like got the time to think about shit like that?
Word. Do you think like earlier on in the dynamic, and you mentioned you dated a white guy before, and maybe this happened with the previous partner. Was there ever a moment of just like a not fear, anticipation, like an anticipation of this might go different because this is a white person, and not because you have any personal opinion about white people, that's whatever, but just based off of the reality we've grown up in, you know?
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment, and if so, how did you get past that?
My previous relationship before my husband, his name is Chase. So my previous relationship before Chase was very different. Like that was like a whole different animal. That was like the like what you would think every stereotype is like in an interracial relationship. That was it. Like, did not believe that my job was a real job. So he used to secretly submit applications for me for like corporate jobs all the time. And I would get these jobs like come in, like, oh, we loved your resume, like come in for this interview. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what? And just things like that. Or was like, okay, like here's our 10-year plan. Like you know, you can't just be out here shooting little bloggers forever, like, or whatever it is that you're doing, families. Like, he's like, that's not a real job. That's not reliable. Like, you know, we need to have $20,000 in the bank at all times. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to quit your job. We're going to get married. You're going to have children, and I'm going to get this promotion. And then you're just going to be a stay-at-home, you know, things like that.
Oh no.
Where I was just like, yeah, that's not what I'm about. Like, that's definitely not. So it's definite, like you said before, like that was a whole different dynamic that really like just shifted. And I've had like friends that have dated that have been in interracial relationships where it's like that, like I am the superior person because of who I am. You know, and so let me fix you, let me help you. You know, you haven't had the opportunities that I've had, and it's not like let me help you get those opportunities. It's like, you know, just sit down and let me just figure this out for you, because you don't know, like you just don't know. And so you see a lot of that.
And what about with the families? Like I know for me, like I said, one of my fears is like they won't want me at the Thanksgiving table. Like,
I mean, I have those that still don't, you know, I still show up. What are they gonna do? Not feed me? Like, bitch, I bought the macaroni. Like, I don't care, you know, or you just don't show up. You know, there are people that say things, you know, and I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm a very confrontational person. I'm a very like, I don't do the like, oh, tú no oíste lo que dijo, you know, Skittles. That's really, like, no, like I'm just like, hi Skittles. So it has occurred to me that like that's the kind of person I am, because I don't like to run around, you know. So just even learning to navigate that has been interesting culturally. You know, but there are those, and if you're thinking of being in an interracial relationship, if you're interested, if you're in one, like you're just gonna have, especially right now in today's societal climate, you're gonna hear people shit about talking. You're gonna have people that don't want you at the dinner table for the rest of your life. And that's okay. You know, like we've had to sit down and have very serious conversations and set very strong boundaries around both of our families and our relationship. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's the person that I get in bed with. That's the person that I watch TV on the couch with. That's the person that I share a life with and that I do life with. And that is the opinion. Unless I am in danger and y'all see that like some shit is going down and y'all need to help me, like, it doesn't really matter because that's the person that I've committed to spending the rest of my life with. And so if I'm good with him, if my dog still loves me, like, we're good. That's all that matters.
And I love, and thank you for saying that, because I think that it also fleshes out this point, which is a point I try to make when people start doing the whole like, oh, well, interracial couples, da 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 da. I'm like, well, I once dated a Puerto Rican who could be white. I mean, depending which room you put him in, like if he was in a room full of Anglo-Saxon Proud Boys, he would stand out. But if he was just like in a crowd of like white people, you know, brunettes, he could pass. You know, his grandfather was Russian, and then his Latinx side was Puerto Rican. I was going to say Puerto Rican. I don't know why, but Puerto Rican. You know, and it was interesting, you know, to know that like even within that dynamic, there were certain threads of my Blackness that were screaming in the same ways they would have if I was dating a white guy, because there are white people in our community, or there are people who, even though they're not white, they carry that posture of white supremacy, essentially, because is what it's rooted in, right? And so I always find it so interesting when people are so anti-interracial, like people who are very deeply, profoundly, and I'm like, wow, until we, like, you know, Black cultures across the world themselves can even get on the same page. And I don't want to hear us bringing down and tearing down people who are dating interracially, because race is not always at the forefront of the relationship. There are other things that are at the forefront of a relationship. But in this climate, I do see, and I didn't realize that you would get these types of messages, but I do see in comment threads, people like threatening and trying to dethrone people from their Blackness because they're dating a white person. And I think that there's such duality that can exist. I think that it can be true that there are certain situations where there are white people in the world who do date people and don't actually acknowledge the cultural differences and struggles that they might have. And so in a moment like, you know, today, they're not a good partner in supporting somebody who's horrified because they're following Breonna Taylor or George Floyd or whatever case is, right? There are those that is a real thing, but I think it kind of has to go back to sometimes the Black person, because sometimes you have Black people who don't give a fuck about those things deeply in the way that we all do too. So this idea that the loss of a Black warrior comes when they engage with a white person is false, because sometimes we lose those Black warriors to, I want to survive in corporate America, and so I'm gonna fucking sell out and do some shit. Sometimes it's about bigger things, and we're not attacking in the same way, and it really frustrates me to see that. And again, I'm not in a place where I'm specifically like, oh, I'm not dating white guys because I don't want to disappoint the culture, in the way that I'm like, oh, I don't want to blow dry my hair because I don't want to disappoint the culture. But girl, I'm so close. You know what I mean? But also, like, I feel like, yeah, like interestingly enough, this argument comes up and it becomes a fork in the road for me in my dating life. I'm like, wow, like, can I date a white guy? Like, can I do like, and you kind of have to go down that rabbit hole. And so in what you said, it's really about what is the trust building in the relationship and the dynamic I have with the person who I sleep with at the end of the day. That is what it is, because is the same way that you are not responsible for all of Black America or all, you know, Afro Latinx people and all that stuff. He is not responsible for all of white America and all the stuff. So why is this self-punishment happening, right? I think that really the rule is there are non-negotiables that have to exist, and maybe some of those non-negotiables exist within the racial dynamics of the couple of the relationship. Like if I dated a white guy, don't ever say nigga in front of me. Like, please don't like, don't, right? Like, let's not do that, right? Like, and so that's a thing for me. And so like, if as long as you have these ground rules, and as long as you have a basic, strong foundational relationship outside of any dynamics except for what are healthy relationships, right? As long as you have that, no matter what bump in the road, no matter what birthday dinner or whatever situation where a tia says something uncomfortable, or maybe he slips up a little bit and you look at him a little sideways like, honey, you know what I mean? Like, that the communication and the foundation of a strong relationship is all that matters at the end of the day.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what you said about non-negotiables. Because I will say, like, I will count my blessings. I am so fortunate that none of my personal non-negotiables have ever been surrounded by race. Like, because my husband has just been respectful to not just my culture, but just everyone who is different. Like, he has just been a kind and respectful and accepting human being all around. So I've never had to set a boundary or never had to have a hard conversation, because that's just not who he is. So like my non-negotiables are like, don't ever scream at me. Like, don't ever talk at me. My dad screamed a lot. And so it's something that I struggle with. Like, as soon as someone starts screaming at me or yelling at me, I immediately start crying and I shut down, like, so I'm like, you have to be really gentle. You have to be kind. If, always call me out on my shit. Just, you can do that kindly. You can do that gently. And he's always, and I haven't even had to say that. Like, the only reason we've talked about it is because I've always thanked him. Like, thank you for being, so gentle and kind. When, I have a horrible relationship with finances. I have no financial education at all. And so like he's exceptional at finances. And so when we would have financial conversations, I'd literally just start crying. I'd be like, I don't want to do this. Why do I have to be a part of this? Like, I hate money. Why can't I just keep my money in a shoebox? Like, why do I need a credit card? Things like that, where over the years, like, he's really taking the time to adapt to what he sees, like, my non-negotiables are. Like, because sometimes if you're obviously we don't date psychics or mind readers or anything like that, so it is important to communicate. But my husband is very great at reading people and reading me, and so like, he'll know, like, okay, this is a non-negotiable for her. Like, I know that I cannot approach this conversation in this way because we will not get anywhere. So now I know, like, if I want to talk to her about finances, or I want to talk to her about an issue that we're having, then I have to approach it in this way because that's just who she is, and I love her for it. But like, I also have to adapt, where I'm a leader and, I'm used to being a supervisor and I'm just like, get it done, blah, blah, whatever. I can't take that same tone with her, with my partner. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. I'm just like naming my non-negotiables. My other non-negotiable is my husband loves Mexican food. And I'm like, we can't have Mexican food every day. Like, we can't. We just can't. I'm sorry. Like, we can't, bro. We gotta diversify. Like, I know you love your Tex-Mex, but we just can't. And then otherwise though, like, I know you're doing the hosting, but do you guys have non-negotiables in relationships?
Yeah, I do have them. And interestingly enough, like, I guess because I still haven't had my blanquito yet. I never made them around race specifically also, but yeah, I think a lot of my non-negotiables are even new. I think I've a lack of non-negotiables historically for me has now put me in a place to have non-negotiables. And so some of the ones I've developed is, you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself, because I tend to attract broken men. I tend to attract men who sometimes are drawn to me with the like mom complex, even though I don't mean to be momish, but they sometimes lack so much maternal love and intimacy, even that like my hugs and caresses sometimes they gives them the warmth of what they wish they had from their mom. But I'm not trying to be your mother, I'm trying to fuck, like, so it's just like, hello. So I think that like being in that stickiness has become frustrating. So to me, I'm like, I'm ready to date somebody who at least loves themselves. It doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean they know every single next step in life, but it does mean that they love themselves enough to know that they want to see themselves succeed. And so even when they hit the depths of something, they want to self-rise, and not that I feel like it's going to become my job to have to pull them up every time they get down, which is a dynamic I feel I've had in the past. I think another non-negotiable for me is it's sort of like, in turn, you can't fight me to love you more than I love myself. You can't ask me to give up on certain things that, because in essence, it's like, till death to do us part. It's not the idea of like our journeys as individuals are done. It's just that we're together and we're in it together now. So there has to be this sort of like mutual respect. In the same way, I desire for you to love yourself and to have your own activities and to have your hobbies and to do your things. I encourage that. I need that encouragement back. You know,
Yeah.
I certainly am not looking for permission. So if you think it's a permissive thing, and I think this is something that I've seen in Dominican culture so much, which is why I'm so like, it like hearing some of my girlfriends be like, I know I have to call my boyfriend because it's gonna get tight. Or you know when you out with your friends and there's always that one girl that has the fucking boyfriend that she got to be running back and forth and she's always on her phone the whole night because her man don't post this picture or don't tag me in this. Like, don't ever catch me being that. Like, it just really, so to me, like, that is a very, very strong non-negotiable to tamper with my independence. Yeah, and I mean, shit, I can go on and on. I have so many, but like, yeah.
No, those are good. I'm always curious. And Skittles, I want to hear yours next, but I'm always curious because I feel like people don't talk about this openly. Like, people don't talk about a lot of shit openly. So I'm thankful that we're having this conversation. But I feel like people are so just like, my relationship is, especially online, my relationship is perfect. We don't have non-negotiables. Like, we will just suck from the same spaghetti string forever and meet in the middle. Like, and that's just not how it works, you know? So I love hearing that. Skittles, what are yours? Or some of yours?
I feel like I'm still figuring them out. I think that who I am and in terms of like the role that I play in my community and stuff like that, I tend to attract a lot of down low men or men who like to lead heterosexual lives in the public and then like mess with, you know, queer folk on the side. And so I've had a lot of those experiences. And so I think one of them definitely is like, and I guess this could be them loving themselves as well, but like, you know, accepting yourself and being able to like lead a public life where you're not afraid to, where you're okay with knowing that you're attracted to me, you know, and
other people
are able
knowing,
to like show that. Yeah. So definitely that, because, you know, as fun as DL men can be, it's you know, it doesn't go anywhere. I also think that one thing that I figured out is I need someone who is like, who has their shit together and like is established and secure. I don't like dealing with people who like I'm someone who's good at being broke. But like I'm not someone who's gonna be wanting to like pay for everything and like, you know. So and at least in the past year or so have been having experiences with people who just don't have that shit together. And it's like, why not? We're too old for you not to have that shit together. And then communication. I hate talking about my feelings, but like also I'm someone who like goes crazy if you leave me like on the ledge of like not knowing what the fuck is going on and not being clear. So someone who definitely can't communicate, because trying to communicate with somebody who doesn't know how to communicate is just like
exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I especially love, like, can we just take a second to like give people permission to want and seek established people? Like, there's this weird thing in our culture where you are, you know, are some like love the broken people, like help them through shit. Like, no, man, go to Lowe's and buy some tools. Like, that's not me. That is not me. Like it's so.
Or
it's
like you get the like negative like stigma of being a gold digger or like, you know, stuff like that, just because that is something that's in your mindset. But no, if I'm trying to have my shit together, I need you to have your shit together so that we can have our shit together.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
and
like
so much shame. Like, there is so much shame around that desire. Like, I mean, my husband is very well established, well off, like extremely intelligent. I mean, what he does, and it's like I was like, fuck yeah, like you are going to call me higher. Like, you're even just looking at you like it's going to elevate me and you know, like teach me like how'd you do that? How, like, you know, okay, what am I doing wrong in my business? But I'm like, can you, you know, like how the fuck did you do that? Versus, you know, like, all right, I got you this week. Like, just make sure you pay me back, and then I ain't never gonna see that. Like, I don't want to be dating my homeboy from like 7th grade, like that kind of shit. Like, loaning you lunch money, you know, like that's just. And that's so. I'm like really glad you said that, and I hope that people that are listening that feel like they need permission to date, like even if it's you know, what they call like up, or someone who's gonna, I always say just date someone who's gonna call you higher. Like, I don't want to have to just keep breaking my back. Like, I'm all for helping people. I am very passionate about social justice and underserved communities. I am not trying to be in a relationship with like, you know, a person who just lives their life around that. Like, I've already been on the struggle bus. I grew up on the struggle bus. Like, I'm not trying to ride it for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
So I love that you said that.
And some, like, for I feel like it also applies to people who aren't necessarily always self-confident. I feel like for someone like me who has always been fat, you know, always been big, and then always been the gay guy or whatever, it's really easy to fall into that DL secretive world because that's where you're getting that attention. And so then when you start to be able to entertain relationships that are actually public, and somebody who's actually like trying to be with you, but they're lacking that, like, that having shit together, sometimes it's real easy for you to just kind of accept it because you're like, well, damn, they don't have their shit together, but I'm getting this attention. And it's one of those things where you just have to grow to be like, nah, I'm not going to accept anything less than what I'm accepting. And then that's where you get these non-negotiables from.
And so what's your take on interracial dating, Skittles?
You know, what's crazy, I don't know, like for me, in terms of like my preference, I tend to go toward the melanated portion of the spectrum of men, you know? And that's just my own personal, like, I just don't usually look at the white boys the same way I look at the brown boys, you know? But like, I'm here for it. Like Jessica Williams loves her white boy. And I feel like it is a big trend in the gay community that Black boys love white boys, you know? But yeah, like, I'm here for it. I know that I personally would love a melanated man, but like, fuck it up, interracial relationships.
I need a shirt that says that.
Fuck it up, interracial relationships.
Can that be like part of your merch?
Yeah. We might pull it. We might pull the quote as a merch. But I think, I think ultimately, like, sort of where Skittles land is where I've landed in life, where I'm like, you know, I think that my journey into white boys and being obsessed with white boys, like, and then never getting one and feeling very deeply rejected by white people in general, not just white men, really did force me to reframe the focus I had on my own community in a way that I think was good, in a way that was not me feeding into stereotypes that people were saying about the men in my community, and really getting to know the nuances of the men in my community. It just so happens that sometimes these men that are very woke and wise and deep are also very broken. They're very broken. And it takes a lot of their brain, like, what cracks open their thinking and their perspective and whatnot. But then I need to find the ones who, like, to your point, like, are also in a place where they love themselves enough to be go-getters about something. Like, I'm not even saying, oh, I want a doctor or a lawyer. Like, bro, whatever, like, what do you do? And like, how do you go hard, and how do you, you know, hustle within the love of what you do? Like, that to me is like, that's sexy to me. And I think that with white dudes, like, I'll be 110% fucking honest. I'm even just like, I don't even really know like what white dick is like. Like, I don't know. And then I have a whole like realm of discovery that I haven't had in my sexual life with white men that I'm like, yeah, like, I hope that, you know, like, many stereotypes tend to be wrong. I hope that I'm not the bitch who falls in love with the dude, and then, you know, the stereotypes of white guys not working it like melanated.
Oh, Christ.
I think I'd be a little sad. I think sex is really important for me in relationships.
Yes.
And so I feel like, yeah, my like resistance to white dudes is just kind of like, I'm never like, yeah, that white dick. And not that anyone should be that way or say like, you know, black dick. You know what I mean? Like, there's just like an appetite I've developed with the men I've been with, and it just so happens I haven't been with white men, so I don't have a natural appetite that comes from the sexual shit. And so like, when I just meet them at face value, what I actually have to do is work backwards from a potential assumption that they're either boring, super white, or sometimes when they're white boys who try to be down, that they're a little too down and they get a little too comfortable, and that turns me off. So I have so many like layers to take off before like pants down and I'm ready, that I am going to, you know, it's going to take some time, I think, but I'm not against it. But I'm just saying I got to taste it first before I really commit, because I don't know.
I love that that's a stereotype. Like, it's not one that I've heard often, but I do love it that's like an actual stereotype. Yeah. That's so interesting.
It's harder to get a good dick print out of a white guy is what I've, you know.
I mean, I can confidently say I don't have that problem.
You get me hope.
I mean, my husband comes from the pipeline industry, so he's pretty good at laying pipe.
Hey,
is all I'm saying.
Come on.
I'm here for it. Well, thank you so much for diving into that conversation with us. I think that, and I mean, there's so many different directions that this can take. And like, I think there's the idea around interracial relationship that I just really want to get across is that knowing your relationship with the inputs you do give in your content, it feels very much to me to be a relationship that's driven around the foundations of healthy relationships and not around this idea that you guys are together and at the forefront of the relationship is this navigation of where you guys come from. Like, that is not the first thing that matters in your dynamic. And I think it's important to hear stories, because people dissect interracial couples all the time and then talk about the psyche of, like, you know, the Black woman or the Black man and what that means. I get all of that, but I also think that there's a way in which we need to make room for the realities that exist for some people, which is it's not always that deep.
Yeah, it's not. That's not the central part.
Yeah.
And go, oh, here I am in my interracial bed with my. You know what I mean?
We're like, not all Julia Stiles and fucking Save the Last Dance.
You know,
oh my God.
Like I just feel like it's important to highlight that and to celebrate that and make room for that. We have to make more room for successful interracial love stories where it's not like all devastation and you're being like subjugated. No.
Yeah, no. I'm not walking around calling nobody master. So
yes. Maybe daddy sometime.
Maybe daddy.
Yeah, maybe daddy. Daddy
All right. Well, thanks again so much for being with us here today. This has been super, super dope. Let us know, where can we find you? Anything coming up that we should be looking out for?
So thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I've been, okay, if anyone else whose guest I've been is listening, turn this off now. This is probably my favorite podcast experience ever. And I've done a bunch of these, and this is hands down my favorite ever. It literally feels like I'm just sitting like in a living room in the Bronx with y'all. It feels like home. It feels like home. So thank you for having me. You can find me on every platform except for TikTok, because I just cannot. My brain can't. Under Chasing Denisse with 2 S's. I have just a bunch of cool stuff coming on. I got something dropping in the winter that I'll be sharing. So look out for that. And yeah, just a bunch of, just me harassing you to vote until November 3rd. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yes. And Skittles, where can they find us?
Yes, you can find us at Ladies Who Brunch on Instagram, Ladies Brunch on Twitter, Ladies Who Brunch on YouTube, at Julissa on Instagram, and at The Real Skittles on Instagram as well. That's with a Z at the end.
Yes. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in to our first episode, season 5. So much more to come. We zooming through it. So until next time, bronche.